Hey everybody, this is Kyle coming at you from Meistervision. Again with this time a tutorial about the Raspberry Pi. This is a simple setup tutorial to get you going. Like many of you, I was way stoked and excited when I finally got my beloved Raspberry Pi in the mail. And as many of us know, and for those of you who don't know, the Raspberry Pi is $25 to $35 tiny credit card sized Linux computer, which is totally cool. And I wanted to put together a little tutorial. This is kind of I went through many different tutorials and forums trying to figure out how to get mine set up and running, and I kind of want to cover some of the basic points and maybe some things that were important to me, maybe important to you. So we're going to talk about connecting up the Pi, what you need, what kind of cables, what kind of components, what kind of keyboard to use, my suggestion, what I'm using. We're also going to talk about how to download a distribution and to burn it over to your SD card and then to boot up your Pi for the first time. Also, because the distributions come set with locales that are for the United Kingdom, one of the main problems is your keyboard is mapped to a UK keyboard, and so some of the keys aren't accurate. So we're going to go over. I'll show you how to change your locale, your time zone, and also to remap the keyboard for a US keyboard, which is really way important because it gets really annoying fast. Also, I'm going to talk briefly about how to create a new user account and give that user new privileges for those of you who think that's important or you may need that. I personally really like it. I think it's a good way for creating different projects and separating my projects out. Also, I'm gonna talk about this is probably way important for a lot of you, and this is important for me. But setting up the Wi-Fi dongle and how to get that Wi-Fi and how to connect to a WPA encrypted wireless network, and how you set up the configuration files to do that. Lastly, I'm going to briefly go over how to use Putty and save a Putty session to be able to talk to your Pi, to have, quote, a headless Pi, and this can be really useful. And lastly, I'm going to talk about how you can very easily transfer files to and from your PC to your Pi and back and forth. And this is way useful for sending packages back and forth that you maybe download, for editing software on your PC that you want to send over, if it's a Python script or something, if it's easier to work off of your PC. Just as a note, I'll be using Putty for a lot of the tutorials for setting up the Pi, when in reality I probably should be doing it on the Pi, but I just think it was a lot harder to record the videotape on my TV, so I thought this way was easier. But just note, you don't have to use Putty when I'm doing this. When I'm doing the setup, you can do the same commands and everything right off of the Pi, just as a disclaimer. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and here it goes. First off, here's the Pi right there. I'm going to be using the composite video, so let's go ahead and connect in our video and our audio just first. And so I'm just using composite video. Just plug that right in. That's going to this just this like 19-inch TV screen right here. 3.5 millimeter audio is going to go right there, and that's just going to this old iPod dock, but I'm just going to use it because I think it gives a better sound on the TV, and it's just right there. So anyways, that's that. Also, you're going to want to get Ethernet hooked up. Ethernet's way easy. It should already it should be enabled once you start it up. So we're just going to go ahead and plug that in right there in the Ethernet port. And then a couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need an SD card. This is an SD let's see, HC card, 32 gigs. This is kind of overkill. It's really big, but I think it works really well with the Pi. And I wanted more space just to be able to do stuff for media and other stuff like that. Anyways, so I'll show you how to. We'll talk about installing a distro on the SD card as well. Another thing here that I have, as far as keyboard and mouse combo goes, this is a Logitech a wireless keyboard and trackpad. It actually uses multi-touch gestures for like scrolling with two-finger scrolls and that sort of stuff. And this works really well already with Linux, and especially on the Raspberry Pi. With the Debian, I guess the Wheezy distro, like you don't have to do anything to set it up. It's really, really cool. And the nice thing is it uses this really small, they call it like a nano, I don't know, like a little nano dongle or whatever, the receiver. And so it's just one receiver. It only uses one USB port, and you get your mouse and you get your keyboard all in one. So I really like it. So let's just go ahead and plug that in to one of our USB ports. Let's do it down. Let's just do it right here. The second thing is let's go ahead and plug in a Wi-Fi dongle, our wireless for our wireless here. This is AirLink 101 wireless and 150. I got this off of Amazon for I think around $10. This is also at least compatible with the Lady Ada's distro that I'm going to be installing. I think it's called Occidentalis, and it's just based off of the Wheezy distro that the folks at the Raspberry Pi Foundation have. But this works right out of the box. As far as drivers go, it's real good. And so I'm just going to use this. And I had it before. I was just hoping it would work, and it works. So let's just see. Just go ahead and plug that into our second and last USB port. And everything is good to go. I've noticed I've kept the power unplugged already, just now. This is your micro B or whatever you call it, USB that plugs right in. Got this off of Amazon, and I actually the plug-in that came with was dead, but I just used an iPhone wall adapter that I plugged the USB into, and it works just fine. All right, so let's go into talking about how to get your distribution over onto your SD card and how to boot up for the first time. Okay, here we are. So I'm using a desktop computer running WinSCP 64-bit, just so you know. But you're going to need to either have an SD card adapter or have something built in. I have a little SD card slot right on the front of my computer, so we're just going to go ahead and plug that in. Now we're going to talk about how to write the Linux distro for your Raspberry Pi image onto the SD card that's now either plugged in. Now it's plugged in to our computer. This is a WinSCP computer, just so you know, and it can be either through a USB adapter, or if you just have a panel like I have on the front, where you can just stick it right in. But first thing you want to do is you want to make sure which drive is. You want to double check on the drive that you're using. And as I plugged it in, mine is L. This is really important. You don't want to erase like one of your other drives or anything. So make sure you know which removable disk drive that the SD card is assigned to. And so this is L. And let's see. So now that I know it's L, what I started with, what I found to be the best distro for starting off is the Occidentalis version 0.1 distribution. This is by Adafruit, and it's based. Let me see. I'll tell you. It's based off of like the latest distro that was released by the Pi Foundation, based off Raspbian Wheezy, however I'm saying that right. But they had a little bit more features. SPI, I2C, Wi-Fi support is more. I think they have more adapters that are functional with it, and it already gets your SSHD like going on startup. And what's also cool, bonjour, so you can actually just refer to your Pi if you're using Putty or some sort of terminal software as Raspberry Pi.local, especially if you're like if your IP address is changing, you don't have to know what your IP address is to Putty, to connect in using SSH. You can just like refer to Raspberry Pi.local. This is like really, really useful. That's one of the reasons I really like this, and I think it's cool. They have a cool background and stuff. But you're going to want to go to their main page, and here's the address up here. I can post it in the description. You're going to want to download. You're going to want to go ahead and download the distribution. It is 700 megs, and I think that they suggest, they say you need at least a 4 gig SD card. So it needs to be at least 4 gigs. Mine's 32 gigs, no problem there. But if you have a 2 gig card, you're going to need to get at least a 4 gig. And not all SD cards work the best, so kind of look into that. You can get one from Adafruit.com. They do sell them that are supposedly supposed to work pretty well. Mine I feel like works pretty well, so I can show you the brand name of that one if you care to. Okay, first, I've already downloaded it, but go ahead and download the zip file wherever you and then unzip it, and you're going to have an image file. And so I have already put it, so let's see, where did I put it? Okay, here we go. Occidentalis right here. It should be a .image. Now, in order to write the image to the SD card, you're going to need some sort of software to do that. What I used was Win32 Disk Imager, and I downloaded it from this site. And this is a real easy, simple way just to write the image over to the SD card. And I would definitely use this software. So, that being said, let's go ahead and fire up the Disk Imager. You're going to need to have administrator privileges to run it, so you hit yes, or you may have to run as administrator depending on your system. You select the device over here that you want to actually write to. This is important. Remember, it was L, but double check that. I would highly double check that. Make sure you're right. So L is where we want to go. Now you're going to click the little like open thing, open file, and you're going to go to wherever you unzipped your image file for the distro. In this case, it's Occidentalis. I'm probably not saying the right, but you guys can correct me. So hit save, select it and hit save, and then go ahead and hit write. And it'll just be like, are you sure you want to do this? You hit yes, and go ahead and do it. And it does take quite a bit of time, so I will just kind of like skip over this point, fast forward through this so you guys don't have to sit here and watch us do this. But I think it takes about 5 minutes. Alright, so it's now finishing up writing the image to the SD card. You guys can obviously see that, and I just wanted to show you what happens when it's successful or not. Hopefully this will be successful. So it took about 5 minutes. Right, successful. There we go. Okay, so we know it's successful. So we're good there. Now we just need to, we're just going to pull out our SD card, and we're going to put it into our Pi and boot it up. Okay, so we just wrote the image to our awesome SD card. Now we're going to take it over and we're going to put it in the Pi. This may seem relatively obvious, but it actually goes like this, upside down, if you're viewing the Pi from the top. And it might help if you look underneath as you're doing this. I'm kind of doing it with the camera, so it's kind of weird, but you just stick it in there like that. And I can actually, let me see if I can lift it up so you guys can see what it looks like underneath. There you go. Yeah, so you can see it's all the way in. And so the the little leads on the other side, on the back side of the card, should match up with the leads on the bottom of the card. Just don't stick it upside down. That's what guess that's why I'm saying that. Okay, so I think we have everything set up except for power, and we should be good to go. And let's go ahead and boot up Pi. Let's find my. Let's see. Here is USB cable that's connected to my power adapter, and this thing is kind of finicky, but just plug it in. There we go. Alright, you see some lights get up that you didn't, and now that it worked, and now we see everything is booting up. Yeah, check out the Killer Adafruit logo, mixed with Raspberry Pi logo. I think that's cool. This stuff is kind of boring, but it's just setting up the computer for the first time. So that's pretty cool. Alright, here it gives us the login screen, so we're good to go. Alright, so from this point we're going to do the default username and login, which the username is Pi as in P-I. The password is raspberry, R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. And then it boots us right up, gives us a prompt, and if we wanted to go ahead and launch the GUI, we would just type in startx, but I'm not going to do that right now. And I'm going to show you how to set up some different settings for locale and that sort of stuff. So if you notice on my keyboard, this kind of shows you here. If I hit, let me show you. So this is an American keyboard. If I hit the number sign, so shift number, it's giving me like the British, I think that's the pound sign for their currency, I'm not sure. Also like the quotes give you your little @ sign, which is not cool as well. So that's kind of annoying. It's actually really annoying, and so we want to fix that. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. So I'm actually going to cheat, and I'm not going to type directly into the Pi. I'm going to just use Putty to connect in and to do the setup. And I think it's easier to record, and it'll be less annoying because of the keyboard being all funky. But you can do this just as well. So with Occidentalis, to refer to the Pi, we just do Raspberry Pi.local on port 22, and we just hit open. And it automatically knows where that's at. So then we just, I'm going to make this bigger. Cool. Let me make it not that big. Alright, so log in as the default username we just said is Pi, and then we have Raspberry as the password. Okay. Okay, here we got a command prompt. First thing I wanted to introduce you to, which this, you guys may already be familiar with this, but is the WPA config file. It's not really a file; it's actually a program. This is how we're gonna set up some of the locality settings and some other just basic things. So first things, let's do that. So you just type in raspi-config. Oh, I gotta do as root. So do sudo raspi config. Cool. Okay, it opened it up, and we got a couple of different things we can do. The really important things we want to do first is we want to change our locale, so that way our keyboard is not doing in the British keyboard mapping, but it's going to be mapped to a standard US keyboard. So just go ahead and hit use your up and down arrows and hit enter on there. Okay, I guess that took a little while. I didn't know why I was doing that. It's a little funkier on doing it through Putty. Okay, so first we want to go down, and what should be selected is English, but Great Britain. So here it is. It'll be a little asterisk by it, but it's the EN_GB UTF-8 UTF-8. Now, what I would highly recommend is just leave that there, so that way we don't screw anything up. And we're just going to add English US. If you go see right here, UTF-8, UTF-8, and hit spacebar to asterisk that as well, and then you just hit enter for OK. And now it's going to ask us which one we want to set as the default. Like scroll down with your to go to US and hit enter, and then it'll set those. Should set that up. Yeah, this takes a little bit of time for it to change all this, but it's important. Yeah, so just remember to keep the Great Britain locale set already in there. Don't remove that. I've removed that. I think that's kind of like typically, oh, I'll just remove that and I'll set the US one, but it just kind of screws up everything because everything's kind of built around that. So just don't do that. Keep it there, but set the US one as your default. Next thing we want to do is when we want to set our time zone. So go down to the change time zone, hit enter. It'll open up the little app for changing time zones. Alright, so right now it's set at ETC. I don't know what that means. But anyways, go to US, and because I'm in the US, but wherever you're at, you can do that. Gives us some different time zones. I'm in the Eastern time zone, so okay, cool. And now it just did that. You can also on here you can have it to set your desktop on boot if you want to do that, which I don't want to do. Something I do want to do is I want to expand the root partition to fill my entire SD card. So if you have a decent sized SD card, right now I think it only allows the 4 gigs to be accessed. That's how big the partition is. This is a real easy way, and what it'll do is, so it'll expand to be the full 32 gigabytes, and so you can that'll just be part of your drive, and you can totally access all that and put stuff there. So I'm just going to hit select on there. Okay, so it tells us it's been resized, and it'll be enlarged upon the next reboot. And just as a word to the wise, this takes a long time, so it won't happen until we reboot, but it does take a while. Ask me if I want to reboot it now. No, I do not want to because it takes a while. I actually changed the keyboard layout so that it's not the British keyboard layout, but a US/American keyboard layout. I'll just show you that real quick. So we need to go into the raspi dash config application. So that's just sudo raspi config. Again, I'm in Putty, so everything looks a little different, but it's the same thing. What you want to do is you want to configure keyboard or set keyboard layout. So hit enter. Yeah, I forgot to test it after, so it takes a bit of time to switch between the different, I guess, the applications it's using to configure the Pi. Okay, here we go. What's already defaultly selected is this generic 105 key international PC. Just hit OK on that, and I'll show you what it was. Shoot, let me see. What was this? It was set up. I just already changed it, but it was actually set. It would be set under English UK, and that you'd get this selection of English UK. But what you want to do is you want to hit other, because we don't want to have it English UK, we want to do English US. So then we go to this screen and we select English US and hit enter. Then it's going to ask us the layout, match the keyboard for this machine. There's a ton of options. I just did the English US basic one. It asks for the Alt-GR key. I just did the default for this keyboard layout. And then compose key, I guess if you want to set that, but I just didn't. And then it asks if you want the control backspace to do anything, like you can terminate the X server. I think that's kind of cool, so I'm going to hit yes. Okay, so now it's actually like remapping the keys. Yeah, so the locale is not going to change your key mapping. You actually have to go in there and configure your keyboard and then go and just do what I just did. But to go in and then change it to a US keyboard. Cool. So then we can just finish and we're good to go. And now let's test it actually on the machine, so to see if that actually worked. All right. So let's just get out of here, out of the raspi config utility file, which is way handy, and we get a prompt. And now let's see if I try the number sign. I actually get a number sign, yay! And if I try the quote, I get a quote and not the @ sign. So you can see, and now we got, these are now working like they should, which is cool. That's really good. So now we have a US keyboard set up. That's an important thing to do, and we've done it. So cool. Okay, now I'm gonna show you how to set up your wireless interface, to set that up on the Raspberry Pi using Occidentalis, the distribution by Adafruit. So the particular Wi-Fi dongle that I've chosen already has support built in. The firmware's already set up. I didn't have to do anything to set that up. And I know if you have issues with that, with the system recognizing it, and that sort of driver issues, that's going to be a whole different story, and you're going to have to look that up, how to do that. So I'm not going to go into that here. But if you type in iwconfig, this shows our different devices. We have, and you do notice WLAN 1. And that's the one that we have plugged in. RTL Wi-Fi is what its nickname is. It's not associated with an access point, and because my particular home network, wireless network, is using WPA2 encryption, we're going to need to set up to tell it what the name of the access point, the name of the network, and then also give it the password so it can connect when it needs to. So to do that, we're gonna do sudo etc network interfaces. Do I spell that wrong? Oh no, okay, sudo nano etc network interfaces, my bad. Yeah, we got edited with something. So okay, so it's already set up for us, which is really kind of cool, I guess. But it's WLAN 0, and they do put some. So you see the WPA SSID, you see like network name and the password. It's just telling us where it needs to go. But since ours is WLAN 1, what I'm gonna do, what I would suggest doing is we're gonna change all the WLAN zeros to WLAN 1. So we have allow hot plug to WLAN 1, we have auto WLAN 1, iFace WLAN 1 iNet DHCP, and then tabbed over we have our SSID, which will be your network name, which is in my case Battlestar Galactica. Put these in quotes, and then you also want to type in your password. Let's say it's 12345, which I don't know. Maybe I don't even know if it's be 5 characters or more for WPA. This took me a little bit to figure out. It's not an SSID technically, the name of your network. It actually is an ESSID, so you need to change that as well. And so you just exit out, Control X, hit Y to save, and then hit Enter to write to it. For the moment of truth, I'm just going to unplug the Ethernet connection, and so all we now have is our Wi-Fi dongle plugged in. It is blinking, which that's a good sign. I mean, something's happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and use IF up again. Oops. IF up and try to turn on WLAN 1. Okay. Hopefully now it'll connect to the wireless network. Takes a little bit of time. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it did assign it a local address, which is good. Now it's just let's ping. Oops, man, I can't type. I'm trying to type with one hand, so sorry. Let's try Google. Cool. Okay, so it's working. We have an internet connection with our wireless device. Awesomeness. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm back again. I know I was using Putty earlier, just to SSH in and connect to the Pi that way, and I wanted to show you more specifically how I was doing that. So we just open up Putty. You can download this very easily. Just Google Putty, Putty. And you got your host name. Your default is port 22 for SSH, which is right. The host name could actually be your local IP address, which may change, and you can get that using ifconfig or iwconfig on your Pi. But if you're running the Occidentalis version of the Linux distro by Adafruit, Bonjour already has it set up, so you can just refer to your Raspberry Pi as raspberrypi.local, and so that will automatically just let you be able to connect in. And at this point, it may give you a little box up here asking you to authorize it, the new certificate, and you just say yes. So then you can just type, you can log in now. This is the new user that we just created a little while ago, and this user does have sudo access, which is cool. And we can basically run everything. We can't run our GUI or our X window system, but that's not a big deal. So this is actually really useful. I think it's actually easier to be doing stuff on this than it can be. But I wanted to show you real quick how to save this session, so you don't have to like type in raspberrypi.local every time. You can just click on a saved one and go to it. So on Windows, in the upper left, there's a little the Putty icon. You just right click on that. And you go to where are we at? Where's our settings? Change settings. Saved sessions. So we're gonna save a session. So let's just call this Raspberry Pi, like that. Save it, and then it saves it right there. So we should apply. Now if I close out of this, yes, I want to close it, you go back into Putty. Notice down here in your save session, you can see Raspberry Pi. You just hit open, and then it'll just ask for my password, my username and password, and I can just go right to it. So that's how you set up on Putty to get in, and that's using Bonjour. I guess that's how you say it. You guys can, yeah, I don't speak French or anything. Anyways, so that's getting Putty set up. A couple of other things you're going to want to probably do if you want to mess around with any kind of embedded electronic stuff is get GPI, be able to access the GPIO headers. There is a software library for Python that's really, really useful for that. Let me see, where's that? It's actually called the rpi.gpio. This is the address up here for it. And the easiest way I've found to get files transferred from your PC or your desktop over to the Pi is to use a piece of software called WinSCP. You can Google that, or I can post a link for it. And it's really similar to Putty. You just create a new session. You give the host name raspberrypi.local, your username and your password. And so hold on, I just closed it. I know that Gert's tutorial, he really shows you how to install this this package, the library, the GPIO library for Python. So I'm not going to go into how to use it and set it up and actually have output and input, right off the board. But I just wanted to show you the WinSCP stuff. But basically, you just log in. It'll ask for a password. Type in your password, and you can see it defaults it to your home, the user's home folder, and so you can see what's in there right there. And so if you've downloaded, like for instance, if you download this package, you would just click on it. You would download it. Let's see, download it here. Then you can just directly move it over, and then you have to uncompress it, and then you can just install. And so, but refer to Gert's his tutorial on that. I'll post a link for that too if you guys want it. His tutorial's the best on getting that set up. PySerial, if you guys are wanting to communicate serially, that's using serial commands. That's really, really useful. But basically that should get you up and running with your Raspberry Pi. I've covered pretty much what I think everything I should cover, but I'll show you a little bit more later. But let me know if you have any questions about what we've just talked about. See ya.